Tonight on The Big Story, the impeachment court is clamping down on discussions about Vice President Sara Duterte's historic trial. Even the VP is not allowed to discuss in public the merits of her very own case. Meantime, one senator judge defends the use of aliases in the VP's confidential funds. He said even Philippine heroes used pseudonyms. And are 2022 political rivals Bongbong Marcos and Leni Robredo turning allies? Malacanang sets the record straight. Good evening, I'm Ces Oreña-Drilon. We begin with a warning from the impeachment court to anyone who speaks or discusses the merits of the case in public. And while at it, the presiding officer also talked about decorum and language in trial that he finds improper. The big story tonight from mobile journalist Merimon Reyes.
Presiding Officer Francis Escudero has drawn the line on statements being made in the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. The order covers counsels of both the prosecution and defense, even the senator judges themselves. This directive was included in Escudero's decision regarding the issue in violating the sub judice rule, which stemmed from an earlier complaint by the defense team. Escudero also reminded the impeachment court about its duty for fairness and objectivity.
The chair reminds all senator judges, first, to observe the impartiality and political neutrality required by their oath and the rules. I hope senator judges shall refrain from unparliamentary remarks, personal attacks, imputations of improper motive, and other language incompatible with the dignity of these proceedings.
Escudero also warned those who will violate the sub judice rule. From now on, giving comments and opinions related to the merits of the Duterte case is prohibited. Such statements could preempt the impeachment court's eventual judgment on the vice president. Rule 18 covers the presiding officer, senator judges, respondent, defense and prosecution lawyers, as well as witnesses.
The chair hereby strictly enjoins all persons covered by Rule 18. You know who you are, and based on the records, we know who you are. From making public statements or otherwise discussing, sharing, or endorsing comments pertaining to the merits of this pending impeachment trial, and from engaging in trial by publicity.
What's the penalty for violators? According to Escudero, it will be public remand and admonition on the first offense. For the second offense, there's a fine of up to 30,000 pesos for each violation. If it is a lawyer who violates this impeachment rule, this may be referred to the Integrated Bar of the Philippines or Supreme Court for possible disciplinary sanction. What statements then would be considered violations of the sub judice rule? Escudero gave several examples, such as the prosecution's statement that VP Sara had direct control over the spending of confidential funds. Private prosecutor Maydi Vinagracia's statement that the spending of the funds was a scam with the VP as mastermind, or even VP Sara's statement that the impeachment complaint was not supported by evidence. While at it, the presiding officer warned against the use of colorful language as well. These are words deemed abusive or offensive, spoken in and outside the impeachment court, like scam, mastermind, and modus operandi, as some counsels in the proceedings already uttered.
Counsel of record must litigate their respective causes before the court, not in the court of public opinion, through interviews, social media posts, or publicly generated, authorized, encouraged, or disseminated through surrogates. Counsel cannot have their cake and eat it too.
If senator judges themselves violate this, a complaint may be filed against them with the upper chamber's ethics committee. Before the impeachment trial ended, Escudero told the defense team to remind Vice President Duterte about the sub judice rule. Yes, the rule again applies to the respondent as well. The defense team for its part vows to abide by Escudero's order. This means the VP's team will need a new spokesperson since Michael Powa is also a counsel for the defense. Before Escudero's ruling, senator judges questioned OVP Assistant Chief of Staff Lemuel Ortonio before he was excused as witness. Senator Judge Rafi Tulfo grilled Ortonio on why informants were paid with medicines as reflected in COA's documents.
It defies logic. Hindi po kapani-paniwala ang mga pinagsasabi mo. Sir, for me, it really defies logic. Sayang po yung pagkatalino mo rito. Nasira po yung pagiging isang matalino mong tao. Pinakita mo na nagsasalita ka na para kang, sorry sir, nagtatanga-tangahan. Salamat po sir.
With all due respect, Your Honor, I personally took offense of that take offense of that comment, sir. I actually just did my duty, sir. At the time, sir, I believe na yun po yung kailangan kong gawin bilang isang empleyado po, sir.
Paano naman po yung mga taong bayan? They're being offended sa paglulustay nyo ng pera. Lumilito na parang nilulustay ang pera dito eh. Pera ng taong bayan po ito ang pinag-uusapan natin. If you're taking offense, mas lalo pong offended ang napakaraming Pilipino ngayon.
Senator Panfilo Lacson took notice of the plan submitted by the OVP for the use of its confidential funds in 2022 and 2023. Both seemed identical.
Paano niyong i-analyze yung ganitong klaseng mga descriptions?
These are the activities that will be done, sir.
I know. Pero
Yes,
kung
sir.
i-analyze nyo, ano ibig sabihin nito? Hindi ba ito insulto sa common sense? Hindi man lang nyo binago ng konti.
Sir, I cannot
O, ako na mag-describe. I think it's stupid. Sana man lang binago-bago niya ng konti. Maraming salamat.
But it was Senator Judge Risa Hontiveros who drew this confirmation from Ortonio. VP Sara Duterte is responsible for the use of the confidential funds.
Well, being the head of agency, ma'am, I believe that kailangan niyang malaman lahat ng mga nangyayari. And I know, ma'am, na si Ma'am Inday really wants to know details, no, especially on implementation of the different activities that we do in the office. So it is really meron talagang involvement in terms of ensuring that things are properly implemented within the office.
Siya ang pinaka-responsable sa kabuang iyan.
Based on that, ma'am, being the head of agency, ma'am, I would say so, ma'am.
Kapatid mobile journalist Mary Mon Reyes, we are One News.
Now let's get some insights from our guest tonight, political scientist Ortonio Contreras. Good evening, Professor Contreras.
Good evening, Ces.
Very interesting day at the impeachment trial. And what can you say about the ruling of the presiding officer, Senator Chis Escudero?
Well, actually, it's kind of fair, I would say, but what really bothers me about it is that it judicializes a political process. I know that there is a need to discipline people, that they should behave, but I guess this is a political process, and therefore discourse should be less constrained. If there is a group that needs to be reined in, it should be the senator judges, because after all, they should be the one who should be neutral and fair and objective. And then, of course, the parties they are actually championing their cases, their sides. They are advocates, and so at the same time, the defendant, Sara Duterte, no matter how you may not like what she's saying, is also free to defend herself. This is not an ordinary court. So para sa akin, I think medyo may problema ako doon. Kasi we have I think it's important to understand that we need to open up the discourse because the people are watching. So even words like modus operandi, for example, how can it be offensive? You know, so therefore it's like, and then the thing here it says is that for the senators, you still have to file a complaint of ethics, which in the Senate will take forever to get resolved. But if you are a party, you are a counsel for the defense or for the prosecution, or you are Sara Duterte, I don't know whether she's going to be disciplined anyway, but if you're an ordinary member of the panel, then right there and then, I don't know, maybe you will be penalized, you will be admonished, and the second time you will be fined 30,000, and then if you're a lawyer, then your name will be submitted to the bar confidant. Parang hindi pantay eh. Yung senador na dapat maging fair and objective dahil siya ay judge, sila yung kailangan pang mag-file ka ng complaint, dadaan pa sa proseso. Mantarang yung isa, although bibigyan naman daw ng due process, baka right there and then, pwede na siyang masabihan na ma-admonish.
Does it benefit the respondent?
Well, not necessarily, because in this case, he's covered by and in fact, nasampulan na siya kanina, di ba? Na-remind na you have to, it's almost like an admonition already.
Okay, so you find this too restrictive, and perhaps it will also restrain the prosecutors or even the defense from connecting to the public? Kasi yung mga words na sabi nyo, modus operandi, scam, mga ganon, yun ang nakakapukaw ng atensyon ng tao eh.
Well, they can always refer to their subaltern, so other people can speak on their behalf. In this case, hindi na pwede yung mismong yung counsel for the prosecution or counsel for the defense or the House prosecutors will be the one who will be saying it. And maybe that's the reason why Cheese Escudero advised them to have a different spokesperson who is not a member of the panel. So I think that would be the option. For example, and there are many members of the House that can, in fact, the House has several spokesperson who are members of the House, but they're not members of the prosecution panel.
Now, the interjection of Senator Robin Padilla earlier, could that have been construed? Could that have been a violation of Rule 18?
Robin Padilla has been constantly violating the rules. In fact, today, I don't know, he was so way out of line for me several times. Sometimes I don't know whether it's tragic or comic. It's turning to becoming a theater of the absurd in terms of comparing the aliases of the revolutionaries to the aliases of the confidential fund. It's almost like comparing the two when these are apples and oranges. Ano naman yung isa alias to, because they're in a revolution, now it's an alias to get away from accountability. That is something that needs to be established fairly. And this is something that I cannot understand why things like this that are blatantly violations of the ethical standard should, Cheese Escudero said that we need to make the process respectable and credible. And if there are people who are really making and turning this process into something that is not respectable, it will be some of the senators. And so I think he should be more he should be he should be stricter on his colleagues. Like, pwede naman niya sabihin na out of order yung isa, that you're going beyond the limit. Bakit kailan pang may magsampan ng ethics complaint sa kanila? Bakit hindi pwedeng right there and then rule out mo order ang isang colleague?
Well, he said the guidelines will still be fleshed out, but he could have called out Senator Padilla earlier.
Actually, to be fair, it's not naman Senator Padilla din eh. Other senators are also using foul language like stupid. Why is it that when it is a counsel who says something like a scam, mapapagalitan agad. Pero pag senador ang magsasabi ng ganon, o stupid, o nagtatanga-tangahan, and it's not yet Robin Padilla, others are also saying this. Bakit hindi, imagine they are saying that right after Cheese Escudero issued a ruling, di ba?
Right.
So,
Well,
merong
he changed the language of Senator Raffy Tulfo there, who had actually difficulty finding the words. He was weighing his words. So, naging feigning ignorance yung tanga-tangahan.
Parang para sa akin, parang it's almost like nakakatawa din. That's almost like contributing to the absurdity of it all. Pareho lang naman ang meaning nun. Para bang nagtatanga-tangahan.
Yung
Di ba sa
tanga-tanga
English?
lang kasi parang ang lakas ng dating di ba?
Para bagang yung mga tagalista sa atin, nagsasabihin ano ba yung porket English na, hindi na siya offensive.
Okay. Yes, but sometimes you have to call a spade, to quote one of the prosecutors.
Exactly. And then, this is a political process. After all, the reason why there is a sub-judice rule is because in other systems, there is a jury. And therefore, they do not want to be influenced because these are ordinary people, right? But these are senators. If they are so easily swayed by the discourse of the parties, then I think they have to re-examine their fitness to serve as a dispassionate judge. Kasi kung ordinaryong tao yan na jury, pwede pang mag-ayos ng sub-judice, madaling ma-impluensyahan. Kung sila yung mga senador, siguro naman sanay na sila sa public discourse. So, I don't understand why we need to elevate the sub-judice rule in ordinary court proceedings into something that is, by the very nature, is sui generis. It's a political process, except that the rules of court are just suppletory. And suppletory means they are not the fundamental rule.
So, or do you predict that, maybe they'll behave for a few days and then they'll go back to their old ways? What do you think?
What will certainly happen here is like this: the councils will obey, will be obedient. I think the league, both the prosecution and the defense. But what I'm afraid of says is that it will be the senators who keep on violating it. And because if the senators are going to keep on violating it, then doon mawawala ang credibility. Kasi ang makikita ng tao na bakit sumusunod itong both prosecution and defense. Hindi na masyadong nagsasalita. Pero ang mga senador naman habang nagka-clarificatory question, they're using problematic words.
Okay.
So doon na mawawala ang credibility.
Okay. You found many senators today really exasperated with the witness. And what would you assess? What can we call from that?
Well, the witness is
Exasperation.
the witness is a hostile witness. So it is expected that he's going to be more rehearsed, canned answer. But that is expected. But if there is a silver lining here, says, it's the fact that even despite that script, very much like Gina Acosta, the prosecution, Attorney May, was still able to extract, and some of the senators were still able to extract admissions that were all damaging to the side of the defense. So nakuha naman nila, if example, na paamin na talagang si Sara Duterte ang may alam. In fact, I really like the questioning style of Attorney Divina Gracia. Yung kanyang question that really made it like the day is when sinabi niya may 3 top officials kung hindi alam nung assistant chief of staff, hindi alam ng chief of staff. So therefore, ang nakakaalam lang si Sara Duterte. And napaamin din ni Senator Risa Ontiveros, si Ortonio, na talagang si Sara Duterte alam niya to. So despite the fact that there is evasiveness, there is a tendency to, nasa sa ulo ko na nga Gina Acosta is disbursed and La Chica implemented. So laging ganun ang kanilang differentiation. So script. So, napipredict mo na. Pero ano na expected na yun kasi ano to hostile witness. So therefore, nakakahuna ang sagot. Pero masaya ako na at least naka-extract sila ng admissions.
You wonder why the Vice President has not addressed this issue all these years. Parang 2 taon na ito, no?
You see, it's basically whatever is coming out now from the testimony of Acosta and Ortonio is that parang walang sense of accountability talaga yung opisina nila Parang sabi ko, kung ganyan ka, ayoko sabihin, ganyan kapalpak. Sabag hindi naman,
Wala
hindi
naman,
ako,
the ruling doesn't apply to you.
of course, diba? So, kung ganyan kapalpak ang pagmamanage ng finances ng isang opisina, paano pa kaya siya ng presidente? Di ba? Talagang yung document keeping, yung pagsunod sa provision ng joint memorandum, parang hindi sineryoso parang nakakabahala
Yung
na for
mga
a woman.
copy-paste nung mga explanation,
Exactly. Yung parang sabi ko, my God, yung project staff ko sa project ko, mas magaling pang gawa ng cash advance i-liquidate kaysa sa staff ng Vice President.
Now, interestingly, one of the witnesses that the prosecution intends to call is the counsel of the respondent, Attorney Michael Poa.
Well, we'll see kasi ano siya parang nagtatrabaho siya sa DepEd naman siya connected, si Michael Poa. And of course, he will be another hostile witness. But I foresee less fireworks because nakita naman natin ng demeanor na Attorney Michael Poa. Hindi naman siya abrasive, hindi naman siya confrontational. So we expect a more, I would say, sedate and saner type of exchange.
I want to ask you about his demeanor compared to his client. I had asked Attorney Chu yesterday, or was it, I think Howie Callejo said parang meron silang pinoportray na underdog type of, because the lawyers on the side of the respondent are quite young.
Well,
Is he a foil for his client?
Well, of course, Attorney Poe is trying to project the more, I would say, mature, sober lawyer compared to the very aggressive younger generation of lawyers on her side. And I think, but the problem is that he's alone, you know. And the behavior of his client is also different. Kita naman natin ang behavior ng Vice President, talagang palaban, nagsasalita. So I think, kung ang purpose nila ay si Michael Poa ang maging parang foil, mukhang he's successful in projecting himself alone by himself to be a more sober lawyer, but as to whether it's rubbing on his client or his team, I don't think it is happening. Parang
No.
he's the odd person out. Parang
Let's go back to what triggered this ruling, which was the complaint of Attorney Sheila Season when Attorney Ligutan posted on social media about whether misleading questions are acceptable or not. Was it too much parang tempest? They were making a tempest. Was it a tempest in a teapot? Parang masyadong pinalaki. Correct.
Alam mo, kung totoo talaga yung sinasabi ni Attorney Ferrer na nagkamali lang siyang ng dinig, na ang narinig niya yung leading bago yung misleading, it could have been easy for her during that time to say, I'm sorry, I thought I heard leading. And that is why I said. That could have ended the discussion. Ang problema ng gaslight pa sila eh. Na parang pinalabas pa nila. Hindi, itong excuse na to, hindi naman nila to sinabi last time eh. Di ba? Ngayon lang naman lumabas to.
Or nakahanap sila ng butas kaya
Oo.
para maging malaki.
Kasi
para,
parang pwede naman sabihin nung time na yon na parang, I'm sorry, ang narinig ko kasi yung leading, yung pala eh, inulit ulit. So, para bang naging masyadong, and this is also where I expected more from the senator judges, from Cheese, where he could have said, did I hear you correctly? Because that's not right. Di ba? But he could, as presiding officer, he could have said that. He has the power to he has the power to comment. He has the power to overrule an objection, di ba? So therefore, kung may sinabi ang isang abogado na mali, hindi tama, pwede mo saan i-clarify.
Pero
And I-
maaari namang hindi niya nakita yung post, yung offending, yung post yung ang tinuturo nilang offending sa kanila, offensive.
But I'm saying, says, for Chis Escudero, klaro naman niyang narinig yung it's allowed. Di ba? The writer, and then kung nakikinig siya, and I think he's attentive, nasabi niya, kung ako yun, sasabihin ko, Attorney Ferrer, did you say that leading questions are misleading questions are allowed? Then that could have provided Attorney Ferrer the opening to say, no, Your Honor, I did not say that. What I said was the leading one. I thought she said leading. Di tapos na sana ang kwento. Di hindi na sa tayo nakaranas ng ganitong stress. Di ba?
But it gave him the opening because may clamor na talaga na kailangan niyang i-restrain yung mga kapwa niya senator judges. This gave him the opening because he began with that.
Yeah, but you know what happened today says is like this. Nag-issue siya ng ruling, which is a good one, although I disagreed with it. It's a good one. Mukhang okay naman, mukhang napayapa na yung mga parties, pero yung mga senador ay tuloy pa rin sila sa pagsasalita ng mga problematic words.
Well, but
So,
you're not hearing any more from Senator Pia Cayetano or Senator
Because he wasn't there, right?
Alan Peter Cayetano.
They weren't there today, actually.
Oh.
Ang andun talaga si Amy Marcos at saka si Robin Padilla. So they were the ones, they were there, which were obviously actually on the now actually, if there is some sense of dignity on the Senate that they want to protect, very clear ngayon yung mga lines kung saan, lalo na sino yung mga senador na talagang defense side. Ngayon, ano na yan, klaro na yan. And I think even the senators themselves are not hiding that. So dapat yun ang tinitingnan. Kasi at least yung iba, suave pa, alam mo na they're trying just to understand the issue, even if some of them are saying things that may be problematic. But there are senators who are really, pag tumayo sila, alam mo na it's going to be a discourse that is pro-defense. So hindi na, predictable na na ito ang sasabihin.
So are you saying the onus will be on someone, on an outsider, a fellow senator, to file pa muna a complaint before the Ethics Committee? The onus is not on the presiding officer to call them out immediately on the spot?
All the onus will be on one of the parties, the prosecution or the defense filing the ethics complaint. I don't know if a lawyer, a prosecution lawyer, or a defense lawyer would have the guts to
Yes.
stand up and
Actually.
question the statement of a senator. Like earlier today, when Attorney May was responding to
Yes.
Senator Padilla,
Yes.
and Senator Padilla said, "Is that allowed?" And I said, so it's like, so that was already an opening for. If I were the Senate President Jesus Cordero, I could. The best way to tell Senator Padilla you're out of line
Yes.
is to allow Attorney May to respond.
I thought so too. Because it was out of this world. Pluto for us one attorney said.
It's almost like a question that is, well, since I am not a part of the ruling, a question that is stupid. You just let it fly and float. And then here is a person who is trying to rationally answer it. You're going to put a gag order on.
Yes. So, okay. So, ngayon, mahihirapan lalo si presiding officer, Senator Chis Escudero to, put teeth.
I don't
show teeth.
I don't envy him.
But how would you, finally, sir, how would you assess his performance? Because, there were doubts in the start.
Well, he's redeeming himself. This is his redemption arc. I would say he's doing well. Although sometimes I disagree with him, but he's doing well. I think he's doing a great job showing that he's prepared. He knows the jurisprudence. He knows the rules, and so I think for that, hats off.
All right, we thank you for your insights. Always appreciate your time here. Political scientist Antonio Contreras. You're watching The Big Story on One News. A week after the massive flooding in Metro Manila and other parts of Luzon, cases of leptospirosis and dengue have surged. And this has put a strain on hospitals. The details of this and other stories when we return.
Ang ating mga bayani ay gumamit ng mga alias. Di Masalang, Siling Labuyo, Tikbalang, Tagailog, May Pag-asa, Buwan, Magdalo, Leon Kilat, Vibora, Lakambini, Paralitiko, Dimas, Alipato, Liwanag, Balite, at marami pa pong iba. Kilala niyo po ba kung sino si Marcial Bonifacio? Si Benigno Aquino Jr., si Ninoy. Siya mismo may alias.
Tama po, si Ninoy Aquino po ang kanyang alias ay Marcial Bonifacio para makauwi po siya sa Pilipinas nung nasa Boston siya. Pero wala naman ho siyang confidential funds na, wala ho siya sa mga AR na confidential funds. Nalilinawin ko lang ho.
Senator Judges Robin Padilla and Bam Aquino there having a different take on the use of aliases in the context of both security and confidential funds. The country commemorates National Heroes Day on Monday, August 31st. The next day, September 1st, the Duterte impeachment trial resumes. And we have more stories for you. Rising cases of leptospirosis are now straining resources and manpower of some hospitals. At the emergency room of Hospital ng Maynila, some patients had to stay in wheelchairs along the hallway with all 34 ER beds occupied. Since August 1, 62 leptospirosis patients have been admitted to hospital, and they expect more after last week's massive flooding.
Usually, ang incubation period kasi ng leptospirosis will last until 2 weeks. So after 2 weeks, kaya ito ngayon nararamdaman natin ang dami ng mga leptospirosis cases. Sa emergency room. So inaasahan din natin na magkakaroon ng strain sa natin sa workforce natin pati sa abilidad ng ating hospital.
At the San Lazaro Hospital, both pediatric and adult wards are at capacity. Just yesterday, there were 32 leptospirosis admissions in the hospital, with 7 people already dying from the bacterial infection. Health experts underscore the need for early consultations.
At first day, second day pa lang ng lagnat, masakit ang katawan, namumula na yung mata nyo, kailangan nyo magpatingin. No? You can go to the local health center or sa mga local government, mga hospitals. Doon naman sa mga wala pang sintomas, tapos maglulusong pa lang sa baha, don't forget, meron tayong tinatawag na post-exposure. No? Ibig sabihin, within 24 to 72 hours na na-expose ka doon sa baha, you can go to the health center and inquire for the prophylaxis na dapat within 24 to 72 hours lang. Kasi lumampas niyan, wala nang visa ang prophylaxis.
To ease the burden of hospitals in Manila, Mayor Isko Moreno ordered 44 health centers to do case surveillance for leptospirosis. The city is also reporting an uptick in cases over the past days.
Importante lang na alam ninyo na baka kayo ay maantala na mabigyan kagad ng medical attention. Dahil punong-puno po yung ating mga emergency room.
Aside from leptospirosis, LGUs are also monitoring dengue cases. In Quezon City's Barangay Payatas, there are already 389 cases of the mosquito-borne disease for this month. As an intervention, misting and fogging operations are now being done almost daily. Barangay officials believe residents contracted the disease elsewhere.
Gawa na meron mga nag-aaral sa labas ng Barangay Payatas. Alam niyo naman po yung Barangay Payatas is ang pangunahing hanap buhay ng iba dito is yung pagiging palero. So nakababad sila the whole day sa mga junk shops, mga trucks, or pag-pick up nila ng basura. So may tendency na doon sila nakakagat ng lamok.
Amid this onslaught of rainy season diseases, PhilHealth assures there is coverage for its members, however severe the condition.
Depending on the severity, no? Doon po sa may mild, moderate and severe na na-admit po sa ospital, okay? Halos na triple actually yung benefit.
Oh, parang abot po yata ng 411,000 yung max.
Yung max para po sa mga may komplikasyon yun. Doon po sa mga walang komplikasyon, up to 63,000 po ang ma-avail nila.
Meantime, here are other stories making headlines this midweek from our mobile journalist, Daniel Dayang.
Senator Jinggoy Estrada's left knee snapped on Wednesday morning, August 26, while he prepared to go to the Cardinal Santos Medical Center in San Juan for a knee x-ray procedure. The Sandigan Bayan 5th Division had granted Estrada a 4-hour furlough for this checkup. But shortly before he deported the new Quezon City jail, where he's detained for plunder, Estrada heard a loud pop on his left knee.
Well, that should be very painful. No? Napunit niya yung tinatawag na meniscus. So that is a structure sa tuhod. He was going to get up. So sometimes, just the act of standing up, basta mali ang position ng tuhod, you can actually squeeze ang tinatawag na meniscus between the knees. And if you're unlucky, mapupunit talaga siya.
But BJMP spokesman Jail Superintendent J. Rex Bustinera denied earlier reports that Estrada slipped inside the bathroom that caused his newest knee injury. Estrada is already suffering osteoarthritis on his right knee. The doctors gave Estrada anti-inflammatory medication. If the pain doesn't subside, he may undergo surgery. The Department of Public Works and Highways has lowered the number of its proposed projects for 2027 to 11,395 from 17,861 this year and above 20,000 in the 3 years prior to that. During the House budget deliberations, DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon says the high number of projects has made it difficult for project engineers to handle all of them.
Under current rules po ng DPWH, para po maging epektibo ang isang project engineer, dapat 1:7 lang ang kanyang, meaning 1 project engineer to 7 projects. Maximum. Ang problema po natin, sa dami nga po ng mga proyekto na dinatnan natin at nagkapatong-patong na all throughout the years, umaabot to minsan ng 1:2 1:30. 30 or sometimes even more.
DPWH vows to strengthen its coordination with LGUs to prevent duplicate projects. The agency has also removed projects worth less than 5 million pesos so that the focus will be on big-ticket projects. The House has also begun scrutinizing the budgets of the DENR and DMW. A rare sandstorm was seen outside the Senate complex on Wednesday afternoon. Thick clouds of dust reduced visibility along Jokno Boulevard in Pasay. A sandstorm occurs when strong, violent winds blow clouds of sand and dust. In weather, the southwest monsoon may bring 50 to 100 millimeters of rain in central Luzon, provinces like Zambales starting Thursday, August 27. Habagat will also bring rains in Metro Manila and different parts of Luzon on Saturday. Pag-asa warns that localized floodings are possible in low-lying areas. Kapatid Mobile Journal, Daniel Dayaw, we are One News.
The Education Department has launched its Ligtas Plus program aimed at clearer guidelines on class suspensions. Ligtas Plus is a centralized web-based digital platform where schools can get updates from areas affected by strong rains and possible flooding to earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and extremely high heat index. For this initiative, DepEd worked with Pag-asa, the UP Resilience Institute, and the Office of Civil Defense.
Lahat ng local governments, pwede nilang antabayanan yung datos dito kung nakikita nila yung predicted rainfall is a certain amount. Gabi pa lang, bago mag 10 o'clock, pwede na silang mag-cancel ng eskwela. At saka, once nagawa yun, baka if we can do it even earlier, yung mga learning materials natin, ibibigay na po natin.
In related news, a 17-year-old student from Nueva Vizcaya is earning praises. That's for developing Raven, a drone prototype that can help rescuers detect victims and hazards during disasters. Here's the story.
With the Philippines frequently hit by disasters, a 17-year-old student in Nueva Vizcaya turned to robotics for a possible solution. A project he called Raven, an affordable drone prototype designed to detect possible victims, spot hazards, and send critical information to responders.
Raven stands for Robotics Assisted Vehicle for Emergency Navigation. So this system is designed to, gather critical information about a specific area and then provide those specific information to responders so that they will be more informed, critical decision making.
Behind the project is Rian and his coaches, who turned their attention to disaster response after a local incident in Kasibu, Nueva Vizcaya.
There was this one incident that happened in Kasibu in which there was 3 people that died from methane gas poisoning inside a tunnel. Imagine entering an area in which you wanted to rescue someone, but in the end, you were the person who was in need of being rescued.
Built with a research budget of around 20,000 pesos, the idea is to let Raven assess the area first, giving responders more information before they enter.
It reflects off a radio wave towards a person and then bounces back to the sensor. It measures the distance in order to determine whether or not there is a body in that specific area. We have our MLX 9640 thermal camera. It provides another layer of verification that can detect body heat and also identify possible nearby heat hazards or hotspots.
It also has a voice detection module that can pick up predefined emergency commands. And if internet connectivity fails, Raven can still send critical information through SMS. But building the prototype was far from easy, as his team only had limited funding.
The biggest challenge that we faced overall was financial constraints. We really had to rely heavily on personal resources.
Despite the challenges, Rian had his coaches beside him, who saw potential not just in the project, but in the student who built it.
Si Brian po kasi, yung potential niya po is, nakikitaan po namin na napakalawak kasi po yung determination niya and also po yung imagination niya, yung curiosity.
Proud po ako, hindi lang po sa Project Raven, pati sa taong tong si Brian dahil kaya niyang mag-handle ng oras kahit ang dami-dami niya pong ginagawa. Kahit paano po, mataas po yung grado niya, pero kaya niya rin pong magbigay ng honor sa paaralan.
Today, Raven is still a work in progress, with Brian hoping that Raven can grow into a tool that can help communities and responders when disaster strikes. Kapatid Mobile journalist Daniel Dayaw, We are One News.
This is the big story on One News. Our former presidential rivals Bongbong Marcos and Leni Robredo joining forces. Malacanang has an answer after the break. Keep it here.
The chair reminds all senator judges, first, to observe the impartiality and political neutrality required by their oath and the rules, refrain from unparliamentary remarks, personal attacks, imputations of improper motive, and other language incompatible with the dignity of these proceedings. Counsel of record must litigate their respective causes before the court, not in the court of public opinion. Their cake and eat it too. They cannot invoke the authority of this court while simultaneously seeking to influence the proceedings through extrajudicial publicity.
Back to you. That's Palace Press Officer Claire Castro's latest reply to Vice President Sara Duterte. Just today, the VP issued a statement saying accusations against her should be proven by evidence, not by insult or political theatrics. Duterte said it's not okay for a senator to call a witness stupid or for a lawyer to call her names like scam mastermind, something Castro believes the VP should not take offense with.
Mas maganda rin po na kung ayaw makarinig ng ad hominem, mag-start din po sa mga taong nagsasalita ng masasamang words o mga masasamang mga pag-describe sa kapwa-tao. Siguro dapat magsimula kay Vice Presidente na maging magalang din sa pananalita para hindi rin na ibabalik sa kanya. Pero ang palasyo at ang Pangulo hindi po tinotolerate ang mga salitang mapanira at mga ad hominem.
Castro also addressed a grant of 500 million pesos to Naga City, whose mayor is former Vice President Leni Robredo. The allotment came from the Executive Department's Local Government Support Fund, or LGSF. Does the allotment mean President Bongbong Marcos now considers Robredo an ally, despite their rivalry in the 2022 presidential elections?
Lahat naman po sa paningin ng Pangulo. Lahat ng bayan, lahat ng leaders, itinuturing niya yan na dapat ay kaalyado. Pero may mga obstructionist na walang nakikita kung hindi manira ng manira. So kung sino man po, kung ano man ang kulay ninyo, hindi po kayo tuturing ng Pangulo na kalaban.
On another topic, Castro said Malacanang is still investigating Defense Secretary Gibo Chodoro's statement that there are Filipino officials getting support from China. The Palace Press Officer says there should only be one narrative from Filipino leaders when it comes to territorial issues.
Isa lang ang bansa natin, hindi po tayo dapat nagkakahiwa-hiwalay ng opinyon at suggestion patungkol sa ating karapatan sa West Philippine Sea o anumang parte ng ating bansa. Hindi po dapat na magpagamit sa ibang bansa para lang manatili sa pwesto. Mahirap po na ang maging leader natin ng ibang bansa.
In other news, here's a breakthrough in the medical field about a doctor in Shanghai, China, performing surgery in Quezon City. How did this happen? Mobile journalist Denise Valdesancho tells us about the first telesurgery for the Philippines.
What if your surgeon could operate on you without even being in the same country? In Quezon City, a robotic arm has helped make history as the Philippines witnessed its first ever telesurgery.
This will be the first time that there will be a telesurgery in the Philippines with the surgeon doing the robotic surgery from China and the patient being here in the Philippines.
Simply put, telesurgery means a doctor can perform an operation from a different location using a robotic system controlled remotely through the internet. In this case, the surgeon was in Shanghai, China, while the 53-year-old patient was here at the Urology Center of the Philippines.
We're going to perform the robotic-assisted radical prostatectomy for a patient who has an intermediate risk of prostate cancer.
The robot offers a closer look with a highly magnified three-dimensional view and more precise instruments. For patients, that could mean less blood loss, less carrying, and faster recovery. But what happens if the internet connection fails? That was also covered.
Actually, it will not affect the outcome of the surgery because you have an expert surgeon right here in the Philippines who's going to take over the surgery.
But perhaps the biggest promise of telesurgery isn't just what it can do today.
With the lack of surgeons across the country, the future here is that you can have these robots in different municipalities, in different islands, but you cannot provide all the doctors. So the doctor, the expert surgeon can be here in Manila doing the operation through the console, through the internet, with the patient either in Masbate, in Sulu.
From Shanghai to Quezon City, the country's first telesurgery lasted more than 5 hours, with the patient's cancerous prostate successfully removed, marking a major step forward for robotic surgery in the Philippines. Mobile journalist Denise Valdesancho. We are One News.
And the lights are a little dimmer in the global entertainment scene as a music and Hollywood legend dies. Here's a report from the Associated Press.
Music icon Dolly Parton has died at 80 years old. One of the most beloved personalities in music and beyond, Parton was known for her soaring vocals, poignant songwriting, massive blonde wigs, and colorful, attention-grabbing outfits. She wrote hundreds of songs, including classics like Jolene, Coat of Many Colors, and I Will Always Love You, later covered by Whitney Houston, that totaled more than 100 million worldwide sales and more than 1 billion online streams. Parton's other crossover hits included the title song from 9 to 5, the 1980 comedy starring Parton, Jane Fonda, and Lily Tomlin, and her duet with longtime friend Kenny Rogers, Island in the Stream. Beyond her music, Parton's most lasting legacy might be her generosity. She started her education nonprofit, Imagine Library, to send books to children in Tennessee, and she established the Dollywood Foundation after opening her Dollywood theme park in East Tennessee. Parton was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame and was given a Lifetime Achievement Award by the Recording Academy. With 55 Grammy nominations and 10 wins, Parton is the third most nominated woman in Grammy history.
And our big picture tonight is still Dolly Parton. Celebrities and world leaders are coming together to remember her life and music. International superstar Taylor Swift tells The Hollywood Reporter that Parton is, quote, the gift that kept on giving. Both women hail from the state of Tennessee. Beyoncé, for her part, saw Parton as her barometer and North Star, who made the world a happier place because of her joyful art. Beatles member Paul McCartney says it's hard imagining a world without a Dolly Parton. In 2023, Parton sang a rendition of McCartney's Let It Be. U.S. President Donald Trump has ordered all American flags to be lowered for 1 week in honor of the singer. And former U.S. President Barack Obama paid tribute to Parton for her civic work, including her donations to advance research for the Moderna COVID vaccine. Rest in peace to the Queen of Country Music. And those are the big stories this midweek. I'm Ces Oreña-Drilon. Kapatid, we are One News, your side all the time. Have a good night.